Hello, I'm Joel Kramer, and I'm an archaeology student here in Israel.
How are you so crazy about me? You gave your life to set me free. By your grace that I had never known, I am saved, my life is yours alone. La da 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 da. 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 I was just thinking to myself, am I saved? Where would I go if I were to die today? Could you help me know the truth?
How do we know an authentic site? How do we know the sites that we're being shown or looking at are the real sites? Well, think about ancient texts. There's a general rule of thumb, right? That if you have ancient texts that disagree with each other, the general rule of thumb is the earlier one considered more reliable, or the one that's more recent, the later one? Earlier. And it's the same way in archaeology. But we measure time going down like this. And so when you're looking at an authentic site, this is like 2004, 2005. Who cares? Right? You're not going to be able to mark an authentic site in 2004, 2005. We have pictures before this church was here, back in the late 1800s, where we have Crusader ruins. Okay, but the Crusaders, well, who cares? They got here in 1099, right? So what we really want are Byzantine remains, because the Byzantine Empire begins when Constantine wins a victory over his rival and takes control of the east. Now, he was already in control of the west, but now he's in control of the eastern part of the empire, where we are now. And this is when churches first start being built here, and so on and so forth. Now, this is very important. And think about this. There never was a time, let's take Jerusalem for an example. There never was a time but from the time of Jesus to the Byzantine Empire, where there were not followers of Jesus living in Jerusalem. Never was a time. We know who the leaders of the church are. From James all the way through, we know when the switch from the Jews, who were the leaders of the church there, switched to the Gentiles. That happened in 135 at the time of Hadrian and the Bar Kokhba revolt, and from that time on there was a ban, and Jews were not allowed in Jerusalem after that time, and that's where we see the switch in the leadership of the church in Jerusalem from Jewish to Gentile. You understand? But there's never a time where there's not Christians living in these places. Have you ever heard of the early church father, Justin Martyr? You've heard of him? Very important. He's writing around 160 AD. Is that long after the events? No, that's very close. You know where Justin Martyr is from? Right here. Do you think he knows where Jacob's Well is and the other Christian community that's here? Of course they do. Okay, so again, there's not a gap from the time of Jesus to the Byzantine Empire of 300 years where there's not people who believe in the events that these places commemorate are around. Everybody understand? This is a Byzantine church. The remains of just the mosaic floor from that Byzantine church, early 5th century. You can see there's a Greek inscription here, which is just, the name of the one that gave money to give the floor. But if you step back like this and look at that floor and where it's going, you can see the apse of the church, the rounded out area in the front of the church here, which we're going to see when we go inside. The well that we're going to be standing at is directly right through here. Okay, and we're going to go around right now just to see this same mosaic floor, which is also exposed on the other side. And the point is that the well that we're going to be at is right smack dab in the center of this early 5th century Byzantine mosaic floor. Okay, see this kind of half dome sticking out, which is marking right where the well is. Not to mention that with this site, there's not other traditional sites around here that argue that they're the well of Jacob. This site is the right type of well as well. That there's a type of wells change in style through time, like pottery does, and so on and so forth. This is an Old Testament style well that you'll see when we go in. If you were to look at it at the side, if you cut it and looked at it from the side, it would look like a wine bottle with a narrower top to it, and then more spread out. Let's see. When you see the depictions of the persecution, is that the persecution here in the East was terrible during the Roman period up until Constantine took control.
Why is that?
Because they were trying to stamp out Christianity, and so that's when they were feeding Christians to wild beasts and burning them at the stake. Comes to where you can see the well. So I do want to say this. We've looked at why this is an authentic site, right? How it goes back. Of all the places in this country, if you want to get it the most narrow area where Jesus was, it's right here. Why? Because we know that he was at this well. So it's pretty amazing, and the conversation that takes place here between Jesus and the Samaritan woman is one of the most profound in the Bible. And we're going to talk about the context of this story and this conversation throughout the day today. But I just want to draw your attention to that conversation. Listen to how this conversation ends, okay? The woman said, "I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I who speak to you am he." Very direct. Yes, I am the Messiah, right? And then I want to just a detail now in the conversation in verse 11 of John 4. The woman says this, "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep." Ready? I'll do it again. She says, "Jesus, you have nothing to draw from because the well is deep."
Very deep.
Now, you can, some of you women can take a turn and...
Just a man.
The what?
To draw it back, it's very hard. It's
Yeah.
very heavy.
So go ahead and lower it down. If anybody has a flashlight, you can look down in there. You can look down in there and see. It's 120 feet deep. Okay, it just hit. See, you can see the water down there with it rippling. See that? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe if some of you ladies want to bring it back up. And we're going to talk about why the Samaritan woman had to come here probably at least once a day, maybe more times than just once.
It's very heavy.
So the water that's taken out of there continues to refill today?
It's down to the water table. Yeah.
So it's not like water that's left in there, if you took the water out, it would refill again?
Yeah, it's
It's a flowing river off.
yeah, yeah.
That's the cool thing, it's a living water, it's moving water.
It's hard work. That's why.
It's not just hard work.
That's why they remember. And if you think about this too, think about this. Because we've got this preserved.
Somebody else can try.
Because we have this preserved back to the 1st century AD, we also have an Old Testament site preserved, because the conversation acknowledges that this is Jacob's well. So now when we're wondering where Jacob's camp was and where he dug his well, we know.
And look at that water. It's
If you drink it, it'll make you 10 years younger.
Give me the bucket.
Or it might make, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Of course. If Jesus drank it, so can we.
We've all fallen short of the glory of God, but you cover all of us with holy blood. We are nothing without you. We have everything in you.
Swim today.
I have the permission.
Ah, very good. Ooh. Watch your head.